I'm tying Lew Oatman's Cut Lips Minnow Streamer on a number 6 hook with black thread. I'm using the recipe in Mike Valla's book, The Founding Flies. Mike suggests that the fly can be tied anywhere from a 6 to a 10. For the tail, I'm using this dark dun rooster. I'm just pulling some barbs off of one of these larger back saddle feathers. It's not a long tail, definitely not the length of the shank of the hook, but probably just a little bit shorter than the wings will be. I'll just hold those barbs on the top of the shank and then try to keep them on top, and I'm going to wrap over them all the way down the shank because I want to create an even body with a little bit of taper in it, even if I can, for the floss that's going to be the body. So the tail on top of the shank, I'm not going to worry about those butt ends of those hackle barbs. I'm going to tie in a piece of bicolor tinsel. I doubt that Lew Oatman would have used mylar tinsel prior to 1958 when he died at the age of 56. And I tried to find more information about him, but he is listed in a few of the books that I have, but I couldn't find anything more than his birth and death dates biographically about why he died so young. So again, I'm wrapping that tinsel all the way up the shank of the hook. I'm going to try to keep it on top just because it makes it more even. So I want to keep as even a body as I can, and even so I'm getting a little thicker at the back of the hook than the front, mostly because of that tail hackle barbs. Bring my thread all the way back, and then the body is lavender, so I have some lavender floss, and I'm going to also tie that in the entire length of the shank. I'm most concerned about not having a lump or a drop off at the back. So I want to keep that even all the way up. Looks like I'm a little bit long. I can just clip off that tip end. Well, it doesn't want to clip. Okay. And leave my thread up here at the front where I will be tying the head. Now, could use the rotary function to do this also, but I just like the slower, methodical wrapping it by hand. I don't know that I have more control this way, but I can see what I'm doing and layer up if I need to try to create some taper, a little bit of taper in it anyway as I get to the front of the fly. So a floss, as opposed to a regular thread, is the fibers in the thread are laying side by side and not twisted together. And that's really what makes it a floss. It gives you a much more evenly wrapped body, although I think this floss is actually a beading thread, and I just happen to have some in this color, and I think in this particular situation the color is more important than the smoothness of the body. A gray might be able to fit the needs as well, but the recipe does say lavender, and it says lavender floss or lavender wool. In case of a wool, I would have dubbed it on. And I think that this might even be waxed, which is why it's making all that noise as my fingers rub against it and vibrate through the hook and amplify. I'll try to do a little bit of layered wrapping as I get closer to the front, as I build a little bit of a taper. Lew Oatman was virtually unknown until 1966, when Joseph Bates republished his book, Streamer Fly Tying and Fishing. The book was originally published in 1950, but he added a lot of information. The title or copyright information page lists the two dates, but both dates it says first edition. So I don't know how it works to do a first edition twice with added information, but that's what the page says. And Lew Oatman was one of the featured tyers, and his flies one of the featured color plates in Joseph Bates' book. And so that's really what brought Lew Oatman to the attention of the general public. Before that, he pretty much just kept to himself, was known somewhat in the Shushan, New York area, the Battenkill River, where he lived and where he was inspired by the minnows to tie his flies. If I want to try to even that floss out, I can do what's called burnishing, and I'll just take my scissors here that have this flat surface that's not going to cut the floss and rub it against that. I'm not real concerned about it because a lot of that is going to disappear when I bring the rib over it. And I'm also not tying this for competition where I need to show a really, really smooth body. So then I take the tinsel, and as I begin to wrap it, it flips so that the silver shows. And then I'll just do a spiral wrap up the body, try to keep my spirals evenly spaced. If anything, I have read that some people or seen that some tyers will space the wraps, the spirals, a little bit farther apart as they reach towards the front of the hook. And try to get that last one tied in without it slipping off that little bit of a lip at the front. And I've been taught, and it's just become part of my habit, to do 3 over-the-top wraps to catch material in, and then 3 close underneath wraps to secure it. The wing is olive saddle, rooster saddle. So this would be the neck of the rooster up here, where these are very small feathers, and as you move back along the back of the rooster, you get into what's called a saddle. And so I'm just looking for appropriately sized feathers off of the saddle. So it's going to be olive inside, and then this dark dun on the outside. And I have prepared 4 feathers. So I have 2 of the olives and 2 of the dark duns. I have measured them to be approximately 1.5, a little bit more than 1.5 the length of the hook shank. I stack them together, and I've discovered for myself that tying all 4 of them in together works better than trying to tie them in pairs. And then I just take my thumb and squeeze those ends. I have peeled the barbs off the rakuses at the butt end and just use my thumb and kind of put a little crease in them there and then flatten them forward. So as I lay them on top of the shank, they tie in maybe a little bit better, and we'll see how we get. And if it doesn't work the first time, then I can take them off and retie them, but I'm holding them fairly tight right on top of the shank, and I like the way that worked. Let me check and see. Yeah, it's not too bad. The back one kind of came out of alignment. I can just kind of work that a little bit and get those aligned. I'm mostly concerned that they're standing straight up, that they're not flopping over. And they did a little bit on the back maybe, but I'm going to be okay because we're going to put a shoulder on it and it's going to cover that. And obviously if this is fished, the water is going to do stuff to that alignment anyway. But I want to get those well tied in so that they don't pull out. I'm going to go ahead and turn my, see now I look at the back and I don't know what happened back there. That back, this back one needs to be in the right place so that I have done outside. Oh, that's better. Done outside of olive. Grab that one done feather. See if I can't straighten it and pull it properly into place. Alright, we'll live with that. For the beard, I'm going to take some more of these hackle barbs off of this back feather. Guess I could take that off now. I've pulled quite a few off of that, so I'll just grab a pinch of those like I did for the tail. Strip them off the racus. Get them lined up together. I'll just lay those. Now I've got the hook upside down, so I can just lay those barbs along the bottom of the shank and tie in up over them like that. This time I am going to want to clip out the butt ends because they're out over the eye. And just make sure I've got everything wrapped in. Now I've got one more here by the eye that I want to see if I can get out of there. If I turn it sideways. Okay, I'll turn it right side up again and put the shoulder on. The shoulder is jungle cock eyes, and I'm just kind of measuring to see how long I want it. This is probably a little bit too big for this feather, but it's also what I have. I'll go ahead and cut it a little shorter. Still too long. Just gonna want that last bit of the eye. And it's hard to find jungle cock that's not cracked, and to keep it from cracking as I wrap it in. I think that'll work. I've got it rolled over. It is available. It's not particularly cheap. I was fortunate and had some pieces given to me. I'll turn it upside down, tie in the back one. Alright, we'll look at both sides. It looks fairly even. And then I'll just wrap up over that head and build it up just a little bit. Put a whip finish on it. Because I'm going to be head cementing it, I don't need to worry about too many wraps. I'll take my scissors and just push against that thread. And I'm going to put a drop of lacquer on this, and hopefully that then when it dries, it's going to dry shiny. And just to be sure that that eye is clean, I can pass a feather through it and make sure that it is tippet ready.